Art the Clown is back and he's bringing carnage this holiday season. It's 31 Days of Horror and it's day 11 and we are watching Terrifier 3. We are 3 movies into this franchise and I feel like Damien Leone is finally taking a step in the right direction with these movies. It's not as long as the second movie and it's a lot better than the first movie. But that's also because he finally gives us a final girl to root for instead of killing her off in the first movie like Tara. This time around, it's 5 years later from the second movie. Sienna is getting out of a mental hospital because of the trauma that she took from the first movie, and Jonathan is in college now and he's dealing with things on his own terms. That's until Art returns with some Christmas spirit, leaving carnage in his wake. Now, I will say I appreciate that these movies are no longer just a gore fest with zero story, but they are far from perfect, so let's talk about it. First, let's talk about the positives. I really like that we're sticking with the Shaw family, which makes me really wish we did this in the first movie. I like Sienna as character, and I really like that he gave her PTSD in this movie, which we really don't see in Final Girls except for like a very small select few, sort of. I like the scene where she snaps at the podcast girl. It's a nice critique on those true crime podcasts of people who are overly obsessed with true stories and don't understand the true trauma behind them. I also like that we got more backstory on her father this time around, which was a nice touch. Let's talk about the kills because that's the most important thing in Terrifier. There is no big kill like the second movie that went on way too long, which I'm happy for. But this time around, it's still brutal and gory, but it's evenly dispersed throughout the whole film. No one kill goes on for too long. I also really like the practical effects in this, which is to no surprise. Lastly, I liked how this film looked. It looks very vintage with its film grain. Now, the cinematography is nothing crazy, but it was still pretty good. Now for the negatives. The beginning I felt like went on a little too long and was kind of pointless. I think this could have been either cut completely or at least trimmed down. Now, we do get a really cool axe kill in this scene, but I just feel like this whole beginning part is just kind of pointless to the overall plot of the film. Next is the scene in the attic with Victoria, which I felt was just very unnecessary and just felt very edgelordy. I also didn't like how helpless Sienna felt in this movie. I felt like she was a lot stronger in the second movie. She took a lot more damage and still was able to kick a lot of butt, but in this one, I just felt like she was weaker. I also don't really like how they ended this movie. It's confusing and it leaves me with a lot more questions than answers. He plays a little bit too much with the whole what's real and what's fake in these movies, and it just gets a little confusing, especially when those lines start to cross. Now, I do think this is the strongest in the franchise, but just by a little bit. On a scare meter, this gets a 0 out of 10. On a blood meter, this gets a 10 out of 10. And that's why I give Terrifier 3 a 7.5 out of 10. If you guys like this review, hit that like button. If you guys want to see more, hit that follow button. And as always, thanks for watching.